Happy Friday, what's going on? Welcome to the Build Series, live here in New York City. I'm your host, Kevin Kenny, and we're kicking off the day with a chart-topping rock act from the UK who just kicked off their Back Again North American tour last night in Boston. We're nice enough to drive all the way from that city to here to hang out with us on Build ahead of their sold-out Gramercy Theater show in New York City tonight. Please, let's give a warm Build welcome to You, Me at 6. So first things first, how many hours of sleep are we working with right now?
Good question.
3 or 4.
3 or 4?
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
First show last night in Boston.
Are you going off energy, or is there just a lot of coffee this morning?
Always energy.
Always energy.
And coffee as well.
Yeah.
I like that. You guys drove, all the way from Boston. It's like five-hour drive about, but we actually have some fans here that came much further. I came out on stage, if we can get a shot of these guys, and I said, hey, you guys here to see the show? And they said they're so embarrassed. They came all the way here from England for this.
Well done.
This is amazing.
Well done.
Did they take away your microphones? Do they have a microphone?
I think they're embarrassed.
I think so.
You've put them on the spot big time.
There you go. They're passing around the mic.
Hot potato.
The Brits are representing.
You want to say
Hello,
hi?
that'll do.
Have you guys ever met them?
Yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, so you know these
Yeah.
people, right?
Yes, we do.
There's been restraining orders and things throughout the years.
No.
Well, that's awesome. So, what is it about You Me at 6 that would make you guys, cross the Atlantic Ocean?
Because we don't have lives and they're on tour.
It's not how great the
cheers.
band is.
Cheers.
Good.
It's really
that
just a lack
makes
of
us
things
feel
going
really
on.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
What's the craziest thing that a fan has ever done? And you guys all might have different stories, but your fans are obviously very passionate about your music.
I don't know. I don't want to embarrass them with some.
We don't have to
stories
name
there.
the names.
There was one girl who pretended that she was either married to Matt, had a kid with Dan, and was Max's sister, and yet she was always queuing up from like 7 a.m. for the gigs. So one day I was like, if all of that was true, why are you queuing up every day for a show? You would need to queue up for that. So I think she stopped coming to shows after that. That was kind of strange, but
You'd be pretty well connected if all that was true, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. And it would be a bit weird for us, our dynamics as well. But
I called you guys a rock band at the top of the program. I guess it's the easiest thing to call you guys. But really, this album, A Big Story, is that it's not just a rock album. You explore a lot of different sounds. And I was curious, what was it in your own personal lives, just as people and friends and bandmates, that wanted you or inspired you to explore sonically like this?
I think really between us five, we listen to lots of different styles of music. And I think from when we first started, our music taste has changed so much over the years. And I think we've become a lot more open door to what we listen to. And I think for us, it's why can't we showcase that in what we do and bring the influences of what we listen to right now into the music that we make? You Me at 6, as you said, is an easy thing to say we're a rock band, but I think for us, we are just a band. We don't classify us as a rock band.
All the streaming platforms have kind of opened it up for people to listen to whatever they want to listen to as well. Like I remember when we were growing up, you could even look at someone and be like, oh, I bet they like this kind of music or they like that kind of music. Whereas now, everyone seems to listen to a bit of everything. And that gave us the freedom to just really express however we wanted to, Yeah. So it was really good fun.
It's funny you talk about how streaming has sort of leveled the playing field, because in so many ways genre used to almost be tribal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you were part of that team.
Right, like if you were,
I listened to this.
if you listened to Britpop or you listened to Oasis, you could not listen to the Spice Girls, dude. No, that was
Yeah.
or at least not you wouldn't tell your mates.
well, yeah, that's what I mean. Not publicly, but now.
Yeah, behind closed doors, you got Spice World on the TV player.
Oh,
but
yeah, man.
Hilarious. But now, you could listen to a record and actually, funny enough, hear influences from both of the bands we just named there.
Yeah.
Take me back to 2004 when the band started, just painting me the picture of, you talk about not being as open to other forms of music. What were you guys listening to and inspired by when you started this as teenagers?
Lots of American bands.
Lots of American bands.
Really?
Yeah, I think I only sort of got into Oasis and the Arctic Monkeys when I was 23, 24. So when I was growing up, it was all about a record label called Drive Through Records. We listened to a lot of the bands from that.
Well, name some bands. I'm a huge Drive-Thru fan.
Early November, Start in Line.
Okay.
Finch.
Finch.
Yeah.
Big thing. And then it was all the Fueled by Ramen acts.
Yeah.
And it's bands like Taking Back Sunday and stuff like that. So
Brand new.
Yeah.
So those sort of bands sort of shaped not only like our friendship group, but basically the scene where all of our mates' bands are playing as well. They all wanted to play that music. So it was kind of, and then obviously you got the bands like Blink-182 and Green Day and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, so a lot of our early stuff is just us trying to emulate those sounds and those artists because we just didn't know what else was out there, really. Do you know what I mean?
Also, we were young. We were like 14, 15, and you're very impressionable by who you look up to, and you just go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to recreate that. And then I think over the years, we kind of started copying that and then finding our own sound between us five and what we can do between us.
Well, you talk about like being 14, 15, you know, brand new, Taking Back Sunday, Finch. I mean, that's capturing the essence of being 14. So it makes a lot of sense of just why you guys would love those bands. Was there an equivalent to that scene in the UK, though? I find it fascinating that a bunch of guys from the UK
No,
were...
it wasn't.
There wasn't.
That's kind of why we broke through, because we were one of the first UK bands to do what was going on in America. And I think that's what got us noticed by like the British press, because a lot of the other British bands that were coming through that time, the likes of Ent Shikari or Bring the Horizon, they were playing like the heavy stuff. So we were the band from England that were just basically doing what was going on in Warped Tour. We were doing it, but in England, and that's how we sort of got our breakthrough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it just went from there, really.
Has it ever been easier for a traditional alternative or rock act to make a pop record? You mentioned Bring Me the Horizon. They just made a song called Medicine, which is just like an unapologetic pop song.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, we're talking about 2004. I feel like you'd be laughed out of the building if you made music like that back then and you were trying to be part of that scene. But do you guys feel sort of, I mean, you talked about, again, streaming, leveling the playing field, but it must be somewhat liberating just as artists. You know, take away genre, take away tags and labels. It just must be liberating as creatives.
I think when you make songs and music, you know, you get an energy and a vibe from it when you go, oh, this sounds really good, and it gets you excited. And I think sometimes when you're making songs and you're kind of questioning, oh, is this good? Is it not good? I think that's when you know you're onto something. And I think we had a few moments like that with this record. There's a song called IOU, which is very taken from an urban influence, and I think we all looked around in the room when we were writing it going, nah, this is not a You Me at Six song, is it? This is us just having fun, having a few beers. And then it turned into a You Me at Six song. So it was just, I think for us, we threw the rule book out on this record and just made music that when we kind of went back and listened to it, like, do we feel good about this? Do we enjoy this? If we find this is a good song and we're enjoying it, then that should be a You Me at Six song.
Yeah.
I think as well, like we're on our 6th record. You don't want to make the same record 6 times either. And I don't think the fans want that. So try, experiment, and like we said before, just express yourself however you feel like.
Right. Well, it's a testament to the connection you guys have with the fans, because if you don't have that trust, I think that it can be very scary to take chances like you've taken on the new record. But of course, it's been so well received by your fan base. 11 of these songs came about in 34 days.
Yeah, roughly. The record was written, I think, from November 2017 to February 2018.
I think he's talking about tracking it.
Oh, tracking it.
Track the record.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's a very efficient work from you guys. What led to that?
Well, because we've literally made records where it's taken like 4 months, and we've made them in California and just basically had a chilled summer.
We had a long holiday.
We had a long holiday where every now and then we, you know, recorded some music, and we were like, yeah, we shouldn't do that anymore because we spent a lot of someone else's money doing that. Yeah.
That's kind of where it has stemmed from, though. The fact that with our record deal now, we want to be in control of the band. We want to be in control of the finances. We don't want to spend silly money willy-nilly when actually, you know, it does end up being your money you're spending, although it's another company's. You end up never paying off a record deal. You find yourself in a hole. Like, we're a bit older now. We want to think about things, you know, business-wise. Business is smart. Yeah. So.
And I think also it comes down to what we're talking about, like how you listen to music and how you consume it now. You see the rate, how fast artists are putting music out. You know, they have a record and then 6 months later, here's a brand new song. Yeah. It's just like, there's no time to wait anymore, because if you wait, you're then forgotten about. Oh, yeah, I listened to your record like a year ago, but you haven't come back with new music, so I'm kind of over you now. I've listened to this artist.
It's also a testament, I think, to Dan Austin, who we co-produced the record with, because like his level of efficiency was something that I don't think we've ever come across in terms of, and that's not to disregard the quality of the other producers we've been fortunate enough to work with, but Dan was like our 6th member, and he was so determined and so hungry to make the exact record that we wanted to make. with no fear, which ultimately just sort of then breathed confidence into what we were doing when we were recording our parts and trying new things. I mean, Dan, I don't think I've ever seen Dan track drums in the manner in which he did on this record. And that kind of stemmed from having, I'd say, a visionary in Dan Austin on this record who basically said, look, we're not going to do anything half-hearted. Not to say that we have in the past, but we've always, sometimes we've lacked the confidence to sort of execute what it was that we wanted to do. And IOU and Miracle in the Morning and Pray For Me examples of songs where, we would never have made those sort of songs before because we wouldn't have had somebody in the room that was saying, don't worry, we have to figure it all out on day one. We can finish this song in 2 weeks' time if we have to, but we just got to get it right and make sure it's authentic and real. So he brought that to the table, I think.
Dan, of course, a huge influence and help on the record. Also, do I have this name right? Is it Egg White?
Egg White, yeah.
Egg White, okay. Now, I've never heard of Egg White, but quite the resume. Worked with Adele, Linkin Park, I believe, Florence and the Machine.
Yeah.
What role did he play in this record?
Well, I think Josh and myself, we were doing some co-writes. I think we kind of opened up to kind of go in rooms with other people and to see kind of what happens and learn from other musicians and artists of what tricks can you do and what can we learn from you to maybe put into our music. And I think Egg kind of captured a moment in time where I think we had a lot to say without realizing we had a lot to say and caught the energy of a moment in our lives. And just we walked into the room, we spent 2 days with him, and in the first 20 minutes, we basically had the song Losing You finished. So it was just kind of like, bang, there you go, that's one song. And then I think we kind of went back in the next day, didn't we? And we were just finishing it off, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I just kind of got this idea for a riff, and then kind of bounced backwards and forwards, and that was the start of Fast Forward, which was the open of the record. So I think just when you say with his resume, you've worked with Adele, Florence Machines, Linkin Park, like, he's an open canvas.
And now he's worked at Yumi at 6.
Yes.
What a lucky guy.
He's completed it, some would say now.
Exactly.
He's
Let's
completed it.
let's add to the list. We were playing your music video for our fans in attendance here at the Build Studios, and if we could bring it back up, I wanted to ask you about it. This is the video for Back Again, by the way, and I take it you guys are big Lebowski fans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was I picking up on that a little bit?
You definitely picked up on that.
Okay. Talk to me about the creative process of this.
Well, we kind of stemmed from our first video, Free, and we kind of took the base idea of a scene from the film Wolf of Wall Street, and we kind of played off that and made it our own. And I think for us, it was like kind of having a continuous theme throughout our videos and something a bit fun and enjoyable. And, being the Big Lebowski, I think it was the 20th anniversary of the movie, last year. And I think for us, it was, let's just do something fun and out there and have a laugh and make our fans laugh and not take ourselves too seriously.
It was also an excuse to essentially bowl non-stop for about 12 hours, which was pretty awesome, I thought.
In terms of music videos, they can be very dull some days.
Yeah.
But this, we had a few drinks and we went bowling and someone filmed it, basically.
Who's the best bowler?
I think Dan has to. And Chewy, you're pretty good as well.
He's not bad.
Really?
I have my moments.
Yeah.
Not consistent at all.
A lot of highs and lows. Was there any fighting over who got to portray which character from the movie?
We were told who we should be.
Really? All right.
Yeah. And somehow I'm a slimmer John Goodman. So
John Goodman looks pretty good in this one. You guys are out on tour right now. It's actually a great lineup. Dreamers is opening for you guys, right?
Yeah, and a band called Machine Heart.
That's awesome.
Really cool, yeah.
Do you know both those bands, or was this something put together? Or?
we were sent the bands over before we were coming over here, and they said, oh, these bands have put themselves forward for the tour, and we kind of listened to them and we're like, they're really cool. So if they're up for it, let's have them on.
Right. I want to get back to really quickly. I meant to bring this up before. Something you said about you have to put out so much music now. You have to stay busy, I guess, as artists, right? Prolific is the term that a lot of bands use. How do you make things matter then, right? Because it's a new thing you got to juggle as artists. It's great that we have streaming and you can put out music whenever you want. But then there's an ideology, a thought process of, well, if you just put out things every day, nothing matters. How do you guys make music special?
Well, I think you should never, as an artist, put out any music that it doesn't mean something to you. I think we've also used, myself in particular, I've used Yumi at 6 as a vehicle over the years to basically just sort of hash out what's ever going on internally. So from that side of things, like whenever we put out music, it's sort of like a diary of my life, which is pretty cool. And then obviously now Yumi at 6 has sort of just embodied that the whole time, the spirit of that. But I just think that it's the way we express ourselves, and I think that I don't think we'd ever put out something that we didn't think was a true representation or didn't matter. But I know what you mean, like this, quality over quantity, absolutely. But
I think the difference maybe is also because of the whole streaming world, and because you do have to have music out more often. What it's meant is, we would usually write, record, go and tour. Whereas now, we're still doing that, but whilst being on tour and wherever we're at home, we're constantly writing the whole entire time. So we always have ideas and we always have new music on the go for that exact reason. So it's not necessarily that, it's always going to be quality over quantity. It's more the fact that you're practicing that art form more often. So actually, you don't just give yourself a 2-3 month window to be like, right, we've got to write a record now. Because actually that can be quite a bad way to do it as well. All of this pressure, you end up writing the same song 10 times or something. You've got to do it really quickly. We need to go into the studio, get a record out, whatever it is. It seems to be just more of an ongoing flow of constant writing, constant creativity now.
Well, it's just capturing moments as well. I think every day is a different experience, Today is a different day to yesterday. It's very easy to be said because it is, but your moods change. And because your mood changing, you can write something different because of your mood, and you've got to be able to capture that, And sometimes when you're writing songs, you could write 10 and you don't know there could be one amazing song in that you've not really paid attention to, and you show it to somebody else and they go, wow, that really gave me this kind of feel to it. And you go, oh, actually, yeah, I did feel like that day. So I've achieved what I was trying to write on that day. And just, I think the more you write, I think Ed Sheeran really kind of summed it up. It's like when you're writing music, if you kind of stop, it's like an equivalent of turn on a tap. If you haven't written a song for ages, it's a bit cranky and all the dirty water filters through. But if you're writing every day 1 or 2 songs, then the water's going to be clear. So you're going to kind of constantly, consistently write songs, and they're going to get better and better each time.
Great point, Ed.
He knows.
And he's not doing bad either, Ed.
No,
Sheeran,
hey,
is he?
as far as
let's be honest.
songwriting, he's onto something there. We're going to turn it over to the audience right now. We got a studio audience question coming from over here. These fans from England.
I'm not from England, but
You're not from England. Were you not a part of the hot potato game before?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My name's Misha. Hey.
Hi, Misha.
And first of all, thank you for taking the risk on IOU because it's my favorite song off the album.
Thank you.
But my question is, you've been around and been touring for so long. I wondered what some of the differences are you've noticed both in the scene and your fan base over time.
Good question. Well, I think we sort of touched on it earlier on about before I could have pointed out a Yumi 6 fan from not a mile away, but close proximity, and be like, I reckon they'll like our band based on what they're wearing or what show we were on. Say we've done tours in America before, we've supported other bands, and I was like, yeah, we're doing this tour because we know that their fans will probably like us. We've got a chance of winning them over. And now I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's people in this room that I would have been like, they won't probably like our band, and I think that's a beautiful thing and a great thing because everyone's sort of taste in music has become far more eclectic and vast. So yeah, it's a good thing. But that would be the main difference. Is my radar for knowing that has completely left the building, and I don't know any differences that you guys have spotted.
The scene is very much more online now than it used to be. We used to have quite a thriving local scene where we came from. You'd go to your local venue, small venue, and local bands would be playing, and you wouldn't even know who was playing, but you and your mates were going to go and have a good Friday, Saturday night, whatever it was. Now it's a little bit more selective as to where people go to get them out of the house, things like that.
Well, it's almost funny, like YouTube and SoundCloud have become the new basement gig. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you'd go to a basement gig, you'd go to a VFW hall here in America, and you'd check out, like you said, a bill of bands. Well, I like one of them, and the others could be cool. But now you're on YouTube doing.
Well, I mean, a band, obviously not every single band, but it seems like a lot of bands these days, they start up, and the main goal at the start is let's get our music online.
Yeah.
Let's see how many people, how many followers we can get, things like that. Rather than when we were a band and we were younger, it's like, right, we're going to get in a van and we're going to go tour around the country and play as many shows as we can and get in people's faces. It seems to be more online based, which is, it's just the world that we live in now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not a good or a bad thing.
It's so funny you say that. Do you guys ever listen to Switchfoot growing up at all?
Yes.
One didn't
Neil Avron,
Neil
who we
Avron.
made Cavalier Youth with, recorded a few Switchfoot records.
Oh, they were on the show yesterday, and they were saying they had the big hit back in the day, Meant to Live.
Yeah.
And it's like they worked that at local gigs for like 3 years before it wound up on a Spider-Man soundtrack, right? It's just such a different world.
Well, you hear that story with a lot of artists, you know, somebody like Maroon 5 with songs about Jane. Like, they had that record for ages and nobody was biting onto it.
Oh,
and then all of
yeah.
a sudden, 3 years later, everybody's like, oh, this love's a hit. And you're going, really? We've had this song for like years now. And I think we could say the same about another artist from the UK, the 1975. You know, they had a song called Chocolate for a very long time, and somebody picked up on it later on down the line. Was like, oh, that's a hit. Yeah. And then lo and behold, look where they are now. They're one of the biggest bands in the world.
Right. Had a nice little night at the Brits I saw the other night.
Yeah,
Exactly.
2 awards. Very nice.
We were talking about IOU before. You were talking about the urban influences on IOU, right?
Yeah.
I want to just ask, we're going to go to Twitter really quick in a second, but, you know, you talk about Taking Back Sunday and Drive Through Records. The sort of, to me, that lineage has now led to sort of emo rap, right? An artist like Juice WRLD here stateside or Uzi Vert.
So weird.
It's crazy.
It freaks me out. I think it's a good thing, but I'm just like, I was listening to this 12, 15 years ago.
Right.
And now it's being sort of harbored and carried in by another completely different scene, which is amazing, but like, it's still freaky, man. It freaks me out sometimes.
Is there? I mean, like Juice WRLD just dropped a song last week called "Robbery," and it's like a Census Fail song, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, but it's funny because like the kids just think it is hip hop, and it's like, no, dude. If you guys were around in like 06, 07, you would know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
But is there any equivalent to that sort of emo rap scene in the UK?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of R&B soul coming out of the UK right now. There's a lot of great artists. You look at somebody like Georgia Smith.
Yeah.
And then there's a connection with like a guy called Maverick Sabre.
Okay.
It's kind of, there's always been that kind of imprint there in the UK.
Big grime scene as
Big
well
grime.
in
Right.
the UK. Not so much the whole emo rap thing, but that it's getting played a lot on the radio.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is predominantly the American artists.
But also because of how now everything is so global.
Yeah.
Like, I think Juice WRLD is playing the same day as us at Reading and Leeds on the main stage.
That's right.
Probably his first time ever coming over.
Yeah.
And he will probably have one of the biggest sets of the weekend.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I remember last year at Reading, like, when Post Malone played,
Yeah.
and they said it was one of the biggest crowds they've ever had at Reading, and then the year later he's headlining it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, Post Malone's big, but probably only in America. And then I saw a picture, I was like, what is going on?
Crazy.
I've seen, so yeah.
Would you say Bex? Do you know who Bexy is?
Yeah, no, Bexy is.
Is Bexy grime? Because he's like sort of.
Bexy's a cross of like everything though, from urban, from grime to
Right.
hip hop to like emo. Like I think that's the cross pollination of the world we live in and how we consume music now. It's like this all we've been talking about, like. For people like Uzi Vert, he probably was hearing the sounds of Census Fail and Finch back in the day. That's inspired him, and I think it's the same for us. You know, my sister kind of grew up listening to like Neptunes, NERD, Justin Timberlake, and without even realizing, I was very like closed-minded back in the day, being like, no, I don't like this at all. But now I listen to go, I love it. Oh, I love it because I heard my sister playing it when I was trying to blast Metallica in her face. So it's kind of, you sit there and go, oh, I've been inspired by other things without realizing it.
So funny, man. Let's get to Twitter really quick. This comes from @TashX9. Which album was the toughest to create?
To create, probably the third one, Sinners. Actually, the recording process was just a bit strange. It's our first time making a record in the States. We'd always done, actually it's the first time making a record that wasn't with two of our good friends who made the first two. And it was a very new experience and we were still quite young. And I think, sort of thrown in at the deep end massively. So we struggled at moments on it, but it's been probably the most successful record that we've had out of all of them. So not bad.
I think it changes, to be honest with you. I personally found Night People quite a difficult record, just as a creative side, because after being in a band for like 8-9 years from the back end of Cavalier Youth, we had a little bit of time off, and going back to the songwriting thing, I kind of switched off. I didn't have any ideas, and then when it came back to trying to write and create ideas, I struggled really hard. And I think really I looked at everybody else to kind of be like, help, you know, like...
We're like, no, you're on your own, mate.
Yeah.
Get to work.
Well, guys, best of luck tonight at Gramercy. And tickets are probably still available in some cities. Where can we find tickets for the tour?
Go to our website, youmeat6.co.uk.
Nice. I like it. Nice and simple. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You Me at 6, everybody.